Well, hello there and welcome back. This video is going to be about the listing appointment, big one. And whether you are an agent that gets just buyer leads or seller leads, you are going to go on listing appointments. It'll be with your friends, family, or leads that I assign you. And so very important to know the main structure, the basic tenets of the listing appointment. And it really starts with the first phone call. When you field a phone call with somebody who wants to list their home, you want to gather as much information as you can about, for example, what their motivation is, their timing, what's most important to them, things like that. Where did they hear about us? We always want to know about that so we know where to spend our time and energy on lead generation. So first phone call, where are they moving to is another one. You want to pick up a referral for wherever they're moving to, if it's out of state or out of the area. If they're moving to the area, then you want to try and pick up that lead to go help them buy a house as well. So those are some things to think about on the first phone call. In terms of preparation for the listing appointment, other than practicing your listing presentation, I would want to find out as much information about their home as I could. So I'd look it up in MLS, tax records, see what they paid for it, what it looks like, and also do a CMA on it ahead of time if you're not super well versed in listing appointments. And so I recommend to our agents that you save a search in your MLS that automatically brings up all of the actives, under contracts, pendeds, and solds within the last 6 months, and have that already programmed into your MLS. So when you sit at the kitchen table and are going through pricing with the seller, you can just pop that up and then fill in the rest of the information if needed. Or again, if you're doing it beforehand, go ahead and put in their neighborhood and things like that to get an idea of the range of value or price of their home. So those are some things to think about before going on the listing appointment, getting ready for it. Now, in terms of going on the listing appointment, you want to make sure that all the decision makers are going to be there. If there's two people, and you'll see this in the tax records, who actually owns the property, you want all of those owners at the listing appointment, unless you know that the person you're meeting with is the only decision maker and can sign paperwork. Otherwise, things can go awry. You'll not be efficient because you may have to go back and do the same thing with the other parties involved. So in terms of the day of, or the driving to, you don't want to be late. You want to dress appropriately. You want to I always show up in a suit, almost always, unless it's a pal of mine or something where that's not necessary. But better to overdress and underdress. You want to exude some certain characteristics when you walk in that door. One is confidence. Two is competency. And, you want to respect people's time, so you do not want to be late. And, in the car, you just take a deep breath and think positive thoughts. I'm going to get this listing appointment. I'm going to do great. This is going to be awesome. And have a smile on your face. You walk up, knock on the door, and chit chat, but hey, let's take a tour of your home. Where can I put my briefcase? And let's go look and see what you have here. And I'm walking around the house just looking for concerns or good things or whatever, whether it's cluttered or small repairs that need to be done, familiarizing myself with their home, confirming or not what I thought about it before or when I did my prep, to make sure that what I'm looking at in person is what I thought it was. And if it's not, you'll be able to adjust at the kitchen table when you're going through the pricing scenarios. So while you're on the tour, they're going with you usually. You're going to ask them things like, confirm their motivation, where you're moving to, and a good question I heard once is, what are the good things a buyer would see about your house, and what are the not so good things? What do you think? And when you ask them the not so good things, it at least gets them thinking that there may be some drawbacks to their home, and it's not the perfect home they think of, and there will be some pushback among some buyers. There is no home that is for everybody. So whether it's layout or it's not updated or things like that. So once you're done with the tour, you're going to probably camp at the kitchen table, and you're going to get into the presentation itself. And so while you're getting all your stuff out you want to have with you, we provide a seller folder that has all the documents that you'll need. And to be efficient, you want to have everything signed at that first appointment. You don't want to have to come back and have them sign the property disclosure or anything like that. And speaking of property disclosure, I never ever fill that out. I always have the sellers fill that out in their own handwriting. That's so they can't come back if there's a claim someday and they could say, our agent told me to fill this out this way. The other thing that I'll have with me is the listing presentation folder, which has a lot of information in it. It has our listing packet, our presentation that I follow when I get to the marketing side of it. So, a lot of times the first question I'll ask them once we sit down is I'll just ask them, what's most important to you about the agent in selecting an agent to market your home and help you sell it. And so, whatever their answer is to that, and a lot of times they haven't thought about it that clearly, but they'll say communication, or we want it to get the best price out of it, or, they may tell you 5 different things. The thing to be listening for is, if it's communication, for example, you want to highlight that you are a great communicator and you'll be in touch with them regularly and we'll get them feedback on their showings and things like that. These things you have to kind of tailor too on what kind of listing appointment is this. If this is one of your buddies that wants you to list their home, don't take it for granted, but you don't necessarily have to sell yourself as much, or the presentation may be a little bit different than if you're competing against 4 other agents. So you want to have well-versed what they call your unique selling proposition. What is different about you, or what is so awesome about you compared to others that they would want to select you? And of course, we at the Downing Group, we have a great unique selling proposition. We are the top listing and selling team in our area. We market more than anybody, and we spend a ton of money on our listings. We know what we're doing. We have, because we've sold so many, we've been through every scenario possible. We also have worked with the most agents of anybody, so we know all those agents, we know the lenders, we can weed through things as they come to us on offers and such. So the other thing to remember when you are in competition especially is, I always like to point out that this isn't just about pretty pictures, although we have pretty pictures. Selecting an agent is about somebody who knows the market, who can help them price their property appropriately, can market it, get it out there, and have all the pretty pictures, but also, operationally, once it's on the market, to follow up with agents. I mean, so many listing agents do not follow up on showings. And I'd say probably 8 out of 10 agents don't even bother to find out how did it go when I show a house. And we follow up every single time. We may not get feedback every single time because some agents they're disrespectful in my opinion and won't give you feedback. But we'll also chase them down. We'll ask 3 or 4 times before we finally give up. So that's a point of difference as well. And that's a real hot button for somebody, especially if they've had their home listed before and it's expired, their agent never called them and things like that. So what's most important to you in selecting your agent? And just kind of make sure you throw in a few things during your presentation about how you are so great at whatever their concern is, or what's most important. So, basically, after that, my general approach is to explain to the sellers, there's 3 factors in selling any home: price, condition, and marketing. That's price, condition, and marketing. Now, if it's not priced appropriately, the other 2 don't matter. I mean, if it's worth $200,000 and they want to sell it for $275,000, forget about it. It ain't going to happen. It don't matter how many bells and whistles we market with. We cannot make people buy your house for 275 if it's only worth 200. But so I will, having saved that CMA in my MLS program, I will pull that up, and I've already familiarized myself with their house. I've seen it before I showed up. I looked it up on MLS before, at least when they bought it or whatever. I know the neighborhood. I've done the comps, and I've confirmed that yes, what I thought ahead of time was this. So then I'll pull up that CMA and I'll just start filing through, properties that have sold in the last, few months in their neighborhood, or, at least, in that area. And by the way, here's a very important point. When you are looking to market a property, the two questions you want to answer for yourself are, who is going to buy this house and what are their options? Okay. This is going to help you determine what the value of it is, because obviously if it's a 5-bedroom house with the master up, people that are 60 years old with no kids probably aren't going to buy this house because they don't want to walk upstairs to go to the bedroom, and they don't need all this space. So it's going to be somebody with a pack of kids and they're concerned about schools and so forth. Well, somebody with a pack of kids, you may center your CMA not just on that neighborhood, but just, you could put in like the elementary school, for example, and get all of the homes that generally go to that school system or that specific school. And then those are your buyer's options, really, unless it's like this is the only neighborhood that has a community pool and that's a must-have for buyers and so forth. So be thinking about the answers to those questions. Who is going to buy your house? Who's the likely buyer? And what are their options? Their options are your comps, okay? Again, may not be in that specific neighborhood, might be within a 2-mile radius. And then now that I've got those questions answered, I've put that information in my CMA. Now I can hit the search button and here pops up, 15 or 20 homes, 7 of which have sold in the last 6 months, 4 that are under contract, and 3 or 5 or whatever that are currently on the market. And so I will also, at that point, I'll point out like, gee, there's 25 homes that have sold in the last 6 months and there's only 3 options available for sale today. That's a good sign for us. Or conversely, if there's 25 homes for sale and only 3 have sold in the last 6 months, that's, that you want to make sure they see that information so they can kind of be thinking, gee, we might be in it for the long haul. So then after that, I will start filing through and showing pictures of homes that I think are the best comps for their house. If there's something that sold down the street 3 doors down 2 months ago and it's the same floor plan and so forth, then I'm going to focus on that one. And okay, let's look at this one compared to ours. And I'll tell my sellers, hey, let's put our buyer goggles on here. Let's look at this from the perspective of a buyer. This isn't, and this, we'll talk a little bit more about this later. This is a very emotional time for a lot of people selling their home, and I'll get into that in a minute. But the point is you want to try to help them look at this objectively. And then I'm just looking through pictures and comparing them to us, okay? I'm using us and we a lot now because we're on the same team. And another script, so I don't forget about is I'll say, when you list with me, you will get this and we will do this and this will happen and so on. When you list with me, just like that, there's a little space there. When you list with me, people subconsciously can hear that and say, list with him, So anyway, we'll look at the pictures, and by the time you go through 3 or 4 or 8, at the most, they'll see what's up with price. They probably already, looked that up before you showed up. They have an idea. Not all the time. Some people will trust whatever you say, and they'll do whatever you say, and that's great. But after that, they'll kind of get a range of, they'll see the range of what things are selling for. And I always try to deal in ranges, not give them a specific number, because the range kind of depends on their motivation. How much risk are you willing to take to get more money? if their motivation on their first phone call that I mentioned is we got to get out of Dodge, we got to go. We ain't got time to screw around. We have a house that we want to buy in North Carolina, and we got to go. We can't wait 2 months for this to happen. Then their motivation is quite a bit different than we're just thinking of downsizing someday. We haven't found the house. Well, I mean, if they have time, we may go for top dollar. The only thing is in that range. Let's say a house is worth $250. It looks like it's in the 250 range. I'll say, look, I probably would not list this thing less than 240, and I might go as high as depending on the market. I might go as high as 270, 269.9, and see if we can get that. Now, if we do 269.9, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's remember that it might take longer to get it sold. So, I'm with you. Be patient though, and we can always come down. And in 30 days or 60, or if it's some $1 million property, I might say in 90 days we'll look at the price. But just realize we may burn through a few buyers on the way to getting this sold. May not. So it's really your call. I'm here for you. I'm your agent. You're the boss. You call the shots. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm going to give you your options. Okay. So that's the pricing thing. The condition part, we've already kind of talked about on the tour. I've pointed out, hey, we need to fix that, or this little thing needs to be updated, or we need to paint that room, or we need to declutter the house, chunk all the stuff in the garage, because the only person who cares about the garage is Bubba to see if his truck will fit. Okay, so the condition also includes things like the location of the property and all those physical things that you can't change. So it has to be priced for that. So that's the condition part. And by the way, we at the Downing Group we're a one-stop shop. We have contractors that can help you with all this stuff. If you need a painter, a plumber, a carpenter, a roofer, whatever, just let me know, and I can at least get you somebody to call versus just pulling somebody out of the phone book. And that's one of the things also within our unique selling proposition that we have to offer is we are a one-stop shop when it comes to all that. So then it comes to marketing. And the thing about the marketing side is that the theme, I always say, is our theme, our purpose, our strategy in marketing your home is the following. Wherever your potential buyers are looking for a home like yours, we will be there, we'll be advertised there, and we will be there in our best light. So it's placement and it's presentation, okay? So wherever they're looking, whether it's online, whether it's Facebook, whether it's signs in the yard, whether it's MLS or whatever, we will be there. We advertise everywhere. And when they see your home, which they won't miss it, it's going to be in its best light. So we hire an architectural photographer, okay? I don't just say professional photographer, it's an architectural. Doesn't do weddings on weekends. This is not a hobby for them. He's a professional home photographer. And so, and then if you want to, you can show them some of our listings, either pull them up on MLS or on Zillow or whatever, and you'll see. I mean, we do all the bells and whistles when it comes to the presentation of their home online. So I won't go through this book all the way, but this is a really good guide for you to use in walking them through our whole marketing plan, our team, all the reviews we've gotten, all these things. And so these are good tools for you as an agent to bring with you for sure, to master, to have ready. And then after you're done with the price, condition, and marketing, you have your paperwork with you. My next question is going to be this: any questions before we start the paperwork? And then I just shut up. Any questions before we start the paperwork? That's showing them, see, I'm leading, I'm confident, I'm showing them that I am the expert, I'm in charge, I know what I'm doing, and this is the normal process. Any questions before we start the paperwork? That's your lead in to start getting things signed. And once you get things signed, you're good, okay? In terms of getting the listing anyway, if all the decision makers are there. Now, they may have some questions. Hey, what about your commission rate? Hey, what about this? What about that? How soon can we be on the market? And all those things. Well, those are all questions that you want to be prepared to answer. And for example, the photographer, he requires at least a week lead time. So, if you need to declutter and fix your stuff, let me know a week ahead of time, when you're done. And, that way I'll schedule him and we can go on the market as soon as possible after that. The key is get that paperwork signed that first appointment, if at all possible. Don't be shy about it. Any questions before we start the paperwork? If they have one, answer it. Then again, any questions before we start the paperwork? And then, you are of course filling all that out, and now you've got the listing. So, then after that, another important thing is to manage expectations amongst the sellers. What's that mean? Well, for example, the whole photographer schedule. Some people, if you don't tell them that, they're going to think once they're done, they call you, then they go on the market the next day. Well, no, that's not the case. We need a little lead time to schedule our photographer. I'll tell them about our showing process. We'll have them signed up on showing time, and we'll get feedback, but it may not be right away. And, it's frustrating sometimes because it seems like a lot of sellers don't listen to you by then. But we even have a sheet in here that says what to expect now that you've listed with us. So you should master what does that sheet say, so you can, manage those expectations, tell them up front how it's going to go. The more you can tell people how things are going to go, and they actually go that way, the better. I mentioned earlier that this is a very emotional process for some people, and you need to put yourself in their shoes. Little Johnny grew up in this house. Little Susie rode her bike out in that driveway, and they have all these friends and family, and even if the husband is all charged up about going to work for his new company in South Dakota, the wife is leaving behind all her friends and family and church and all this, or whatever. So you need to be sensitive to that, and this is not just a wham bam thank you ma'am kind of thing. Even if it is with one party or the other party is grieving potentially. So you need to empathize with those folks, and you need to talk to both of those individuals accordingly. So to me that's the basics of the listing appointment. Now, what you're going to want to do as an agent is you're going to want to familiarize yourself with all the contracts as usual. You're going to want to know what everything means. You're going to want to know how to fill all that paperwork out. And then you're going to want to do some ride-alongs with an agent that's really good at this. And you're going to want to practice yourself. Don't practice on your clients. The more you can practice with another agent or your spouse or a friend or whoever, the better you'll feel when you go to that listing appointment. Because remember, you want to seem like the leader. You want to exude confidence and competence. And so nothing worse than not being prepared, walking in and stuttering all over yourself, and even then sometimes you might get the listing, but why not just make it a slam dunk? So that's a lot to digest, and there's a lot more to listing property, but that's the basics, okay? And so we'll have more information about that in other videos. So there you have it. Work hard on it. It's going to be a staple for you as an agent over time. And it's great to have listings, and when you're on this team, you will have listing opportunities, whether you only get buyer leads or seller leads. All right, great. Have a great day.